It felt unbelievable. Time for us to pack up and head out west on our long anticipated vacation that the three of us had been planning for well over a year. And yet here we were scrambling to get everything fit into the car just right. We did accomplish that task, however, and we took off heading west across the great United States. We left Michigan behind as we took turns driving through the night. We went around Chicago and Milwaukee and eventually the entire southern portion of the state of Minnesota and into the state of South Dakota, all along Interstate 90. Is it? Did you see a sign? Yeah. It's a big river.
That's a river?
It's the Missouri. The Missouri. By the very next morning, we had reached Destination 1 of the Great American Road Trip, the brilliant Badlands National Park, where we were eager and ready to get out and stretch our legs for a minute. I don't see shit. We even had our first wildlife sighting when we spotted a couple of deer running across the field while we were pulled over here at the northeast entrance, taking our pictures with the sign. We didn't stay and admire for long, however, because we had a full day of overlooks to go see, and we also had a number of small hikes that we wanted to get done right away this morning. Our very first stop of the day came at us quickly here with the Big Badlands Overlook, where we learned a bit about the predominant feature that we would be seeing today, the Badlands Wall, from the sign here that read as follows. The Badlands Wall constantly retreats north as it erodes and washes into the White River Valley below. The wall, an intricately carved cliff, divides the upper from the lower prairie. The wall is more than 60 miles long. It is the geologic feature around which the park boundaries were drawn. The loop road follows the wall, sometimes dipping into the lower prairie, then climbing back to the rim. Just down the road from here was a rather large parking lot, which marked the trailhead to some of the more popular hikes within this area of the park. For us, we were going to do the door, the window, and the notch trails this morning. We started our hike off here on the left end of the parking lot as we entered into the door trail on this beautifully accessible boardwalk through the green grass here. We really didn't know what to expect on this hike. We certainly were not expecting to see any rattlesnakes, but just the thought really excited us as we kind of entered into this unknown territory. After only a short distance from the trailhead, you are brought to this cutout in the mountain where you are transferred through this door into this otherworldly landscape that makes the Badlands so famous, so beautiful, and so unique. Having initially thought the hike was just going to be along this boardwalk here, we were surprised when we were seeing groups of other people out amongst the scenery. We followed these stairs down off of the boardwalk, and we made contact with the baddest of the Badlands, and we were walking through a otherworldly landscape that ended up being a really, really cool and fun hike. This trail was absolutely spectacular. Marked with these little yellow guidance poles, this trail brings you out and leads you through all the eroding canyons and offers you 360-degree views all around of these beautiful Badlands. This hike really helped us connect to the landscape here on a more personal level. It allowed us to see all the intricate details of the canyons and witness the incredible destructive force of erosion up close and personal. Walking out here makes us better understand why this place was called Badlands by so many of the native people that lived here, as well as early French fur trappers that came to the area. This landscape would just be incredibly tough terrain to traverse before there was a road running through it and the invention of vehicles and all that. We're incredibly lucky to be out here today enjoying this. After not too long into our hike, we're already approaching the marker that says it's the end of the trail. And they really aren't kidding. There is literally probably nowhere else you could continue walking after this. So we decided it's a good place to stop and rest for a minute and grab some photos for the memory books. And then we're heading back towards the car for our next little hike. As we walked along the boardwalk back towards the car, we made sure to stop and watch all the birds that were flying in and out of their nests. These swallows seem to love to make their unique nests all over the amenities here at the park, like the picnic gazebos and the bathrooms. They're really a cool bird, flying with such precision and grace out of these nests. It was fun to just stop and watch them for a couple of minutes. The next stop was the window, which was just a smaller cutout in the wall, but if you take the time to walk up and look through, it really offered a breathtaking view of the Badlands, kind of back towards the section that we were just walking through on the door trail up and over those hills there.
Actually, if I was like...
And moving on from the window, on the right-hand side of the parking lot is the Notch Trail, which was going to be the longest and probably the most strenuous of the 3 hikes that we were doing this morning.
Lost.
There's even a unique obstacle along this trail that makes this path really well known and famous in the park. And here we go, Hannah and I taking off up the famous Notch Trail ladder of the Badlands National Park. We were all very thankful for the ladder because this hill gets really steep. All right, we made it to the top. And here comes Chloe up from behind us, followed by a whole line of people waiting their turn, as we did before them, as I'm sure many hikers have before us, and I'm sure many of you will as well if you come and visit this place. Keep that in mind if you want to do this hike.
Right, Chloe. How was it? Not too bad?
Not too bad.
Good.
As we continue the hike on this upper portion here along the side of this cliff, you kind of walk into this wild looking canyon area and eventually get to the Notch, which is a brilliant cutout in the wall with a magnificent overlook of the park here below. We even had a wildlife sighting while looking around with the binoculars from up here when we spotted a couple of horses off standing on a rock in the distance. I was unaware of any wild horses in the Badlands. I'm not sure if these are wild horses or not, but it was still cool to see them in this beautiful landscape from way up here. When we had finished soaking up all the views at the Notch Overlook, we turned around but opted to take the path less traveled, as we wanted to explore everything there was to see in this otherworldly canyon.
You can see it run all the way up the mountain. The mountains are alive, and all these veins are a little green too. You can see the green tint in all the rocks. It's a good example of it. I don't know. I'm no geologist.
You're no geologist, but you rock.
We took our time to really enjoy this section of the hike. We had climbed up to some other vantage points to take in a couple of other different views, and we had walked to the very back of the canyon along the dried up stream bed, making sure to check all of the nooks and crannies within this unique area that had us feeling like we were walking on the surface of Mars or even Venus or some out of this world place. When our thirst for adventure here on the Notch Trail was satiated, we started heading back for the car, and that meant waiting in line for our turn to head down the ladder this time. There were even more people lined up the later it got in the morning. So if you are not a crowds person or you're not a patient person and don't like waiting in line, getting here probably as early as possible is your best bet to see the Notch Trail and maybe have it a bit more secluded to yourself. At this point in our day, we're feeling pretty tired, pretty worn out, thirsty, and famished, so we decided that we were going to head over to the visitor center and refill our water bottles and figure out what we wanted to do with the rest of our day. We took just a minute to enjoy the visitor center before we decided that we were all starving and we needed to go get some lunch somewhere. We had basically just driven through the night to get here, and we had only had gas station snacks to eat, and that's pretty much all we had in the car as well. So we were going to head into town and grab some lunch before heading to another iconic spot here in the Badlands of South Dakota. And that spot would be the famous Wall Drug of Wall, South Dakota. This is a great stop where there's really something for everybody. There's a bookstore in there, a candy store, a jewelry shop. There's a camping supplies place. You really can find anything you need on your road trip in this Western themed tourist trap kind of a shopping mall place. It's a really fun place to kill a little bit of time if you got the time to spare. We didn't stay and shop for long, however, because we were itching to get back and experience some more of the beauty of the national park that we came to see. So we ended up heading out of town back the way we came, and we entered the park again at the northeast entrance and just kind of drove right past everything we had already experienced that morning and turned onto the Badlands Loop Drive to start experiencing everything that there is to see there. Just down the road a short ways, we came to a small parking lot on the right-hand side of the road. We were eager to hop out and to get back into the action of hiking as we just drove maybe a half hour or so from the town of Wall to get back to this spot. So we saw some other people hiking on up into the hills, and we decided to follow everybody out to see what it was all about. And this ended up being an impromptu hike up the Saddle Pass Trail, which is one of the more strenuous hikes of this area. This was one of those adventures that had started off with us kind of saying, well, let's just go out a little ways and see what we can see, and then we'll head back to the car. And then it was really steep right away, and we gained some serious elevation, and it became like, well, let's just see what we can see from a little further. So we ended up being a little underprepared for this hike, which I would not recommend to anyone. It wasn't until about here till we saw what we were actually getting ourselves into out here on this mountain.
Like she knows them personally.
We decided to continue onwards, however, having come this far, for better or for worse. We were freshly fueled off lunch and feeling ambitious, I guess. And at this point, our eyes were on the prize, and we could see where we wanted to get to and end this epic little side quest adventure. Not too much further now, we can see the clear finish line. And here's our final approach up to the top of the mountain. We were pumped as all of the other groups that were up there were kind of clearing out at this time, and looking behind us, there was really nobody right behind us, so we knew we were going to have the summit of this mountain to ourselves for just a minute, which was awesome. It's not a very large place, and it was great for getting some awesome pictures and selfies and videos and things like that. The view from up here was incredible. A true 360-degree experience. Absolutely marvelous. We will call this a summit adventure.
You raise me That was scary.
We're very high up.
It was scary.
That's a lot of elevation very fast.
I'm proud of us.
Yeah, we did.
All right, we're ready to head back down.
We were not prepared to do that.
No, let's get back to the shade.
And Dave looks like he's in Dubai.
Also, you're good. We were relieved to be down back in the prairie, in the shade of the clouds, enjoying a steady breeze, close to the parking lot by the car. Oh, it looks like hurt or something. Back on the road again, we are getting rehydrated and really enjoying the views on this moody day here in the Badlands. Everything around us was beautiful. There is just way too much cool stuff to see here all in one day, and so for the rest of our afternoon, we were planning on maximizing our sightseeing by driving to a lot of the overlooks and viewpoints along this road, including a quick walk here along the fossil exhibit trail, and then followed up by a stop at Panorama Point for some amazing pictures. Panorama Point. As we continued on the scenic drive, we came to the Yellow Mound section of the park, where the geology changed all around us as we drove down into an older slice of the Earth's layers, and we watched the rocks change from the red and white stripes to these kind of rolling yellow hills all around us. After the Yellow Mounds, we stopped at the Pinnacles overlook, where we had a wildlife sighting almost right away, spotting some bighorn sheep on a faraway ledge. The Pinnacles overlook was absolutely stunning with all of its beauty. It's no wonder that this would be a popular spot for photographers chasing a great landscape photograph, or maybe just that perfect shot of a sunset over the Badlands. We had one last good look at the sheep here before leaving the Pinnacles Overlook, heading for our last destination on this adventure for the day, which would be a short trip up the Sage Creek Rim Road into the wilderness area, where we spotted a huge herd of bison off in the distance before coming across a small herd of the pronghorn here that we spotted off in the prairie. We were thrilled to be having all of these wonderful new wildlife sightings as we were on our way to spot yet another new species for the trip. We are going to see the prairie dogs at Roberts Prairie Dog Town, a vast prairie dog town spanning as far as the eye could see across the green grass. It was more like a prairie dog metropolis. We pulled the car over in the parking lot and we just watched these guys for the next little bit. The three of us were absolutely thrilled to just be here and watch these little creatures live out their lives through our binoculars on this huge open grassland prairie. We drove back towards the main highway with the windows wide open, taking our last glimpses at the pronghorn and the huge herd of bison off in the distance. This excited us knowing that just in a couple of days' time we're going to be in places like Yellowstone National Park, where the bison are known to be right up close to the road, even stopping traffic at times, which we were experiencing here a little bit leaving the park as there were prairie dogs continuing to be all around us. We even had to slow down quite a few times and just watch them scurry off into the prairie. Our final stop of the day came to us as we left the park through the Pinnacles entrance, and that would be the free camping and boondocking area here that's located just along a small portion of the Badlands wall. I was going to see if I could maybe get a drone shot of this cool little spot, but there seemed to be some strong winds picking up and there was most definitely a storm blowing in at the time, so we decided not to. And that ended up being the right decision because it wasn't just a small storm blowing in, but we actually ended up watching tornadoes form for the rest of our drive this evening.
Look at it. Whoa!
Oh man, I'm gonna FaceTime my brother.
Is this west?
I feel like we're looking west.
We're looking west.
We did, thankfully, make it safely to our destination, the beautiful Rapid City, South Dakota, where we found some reasonably priced hotel accommodations for the night, where we were extra excited to finally be getting some good rest and relaxation. We were conveniently located right next to one of the big box stores here in town, where we were able to get all of our grocery shopping done for the entire week, as well as pick up some last-minute camping supplies for the upcoming nights. We woke up early in the morning feeling recharged and ready to go. We hopped in the car on this wet and soggy morning and drove just under 2 hours for our next destination, which sticks out like a sore thumb from the surrounding landscape. It's the magnificent and mysterious Bear Lodge, or Devil's Tower National Monument. Even as we're driving up to the parking area through the pine forest here, we really cannot take our eyes off of this massive geologic formation. Its presence is just so commanding over this landscape. It's absolutely magnificent. This morning we were going to do the Tower Trail and take a 1.3 mile hike around the base of the tower. Let's take the Tower Trail. The walk up to the base of the tower was absolutely beautiful as we meandered through the burned out lodgepole pine tree forest.
The greatest sweatshirt crew.
How absolutely stunning is this feature? It was just amazing. The unique appearance and commanding presence of Bear Lodge has always inspired many human connections to this site, In fact, this site is considered sacred to dozens of Native American tribes throughout this region. It was the USA's first national monument, being given that title in 1906 by then President Theodore Roosevelt, 10 years before the Park Service was even founded. So this place is clearly special, and it connects with people as soon as they're here and as soon as people are laying eyes on this place, which we're experiencing a little bit on the Tower Trail here, being right up close and personal with this amazing feature. The trail is dotted with small interactive areas that were both entertaining and educational. We learned a little bit about the formation of the tower and how it got there in the first place. There was even a stop with a looking glass where you could peek through to see a ladder that was used to summit the tower as early as 1893. And when we were finished exploring and learning about the tower, we made our way down to the Prairie Dog Town at a small pullout located just on the entrance drive. This was an awesome stop. We do love our prairie dogs. This place even had a couple of small walking trails that you could take that allowed you to safely, of course, get a little bit closer perspective of the prairie dogs than we got from the Roberts Prairie Dog Town earlier. We just got some really cool, a little bit up close videos of these guys, and they were really just fun to watch, eat, and live their little lives. We love prairie dogs. This guy's protecting his friends over here. This guy's got a great little scream here. Okay, we'll go.
Good job. You defended your little territory.
He's letting all his buddies know they're safe. Amazing. Right here, right in the shadow of Devil's Tower. What a beautiful place for these little dogs to live. Oh! Oh! What? We finished up our time here with the dogs and at the tower, and we headed for the exit to pay and to leave. We were able to pay with our America the Beautiful National Parks Pass, which is just the yearly entrance fee card for all the national parks and monuments too, apparently. We were on the road again by midday, heading across Montana for the town of Bozeman, where we planned to spend the night. We watched the mountains in the distance for hours, when all of a sudden we were driving in the mountains, entering into the mountain town of Bozeman, Montana. We checked into a comfy hotel room that was walking distance from a couple of restaurants, where we were able to grab some dinner before retiring back to our room to rest up in preparation for the rest of our great American road trip.